Before we start, I'm going to read something to you that it's very important, which took place this week. It was a statement from a journalist from an organization, and I'm going to read the last part of his statement. The rule of law, regulations, and processes clearly set forth an expectation of fairness and of recourse when wronged. And all of them are under assault right now. There are illegal takeovers of government systems. There are illegal shutdowns of government agencies and departments. There are forced mass resignations in critical agencies. And there are private operatives assuming government power and authority. I said 2 weeks ago that this program's not going to chase everything that comes out of the White House. And we're not. But the lasting structural damage that's deliberately being done to this economy and everyone in it has to be pointed out. Kai Ryssdal, longtime host on NPR's Marketplace, February 13th, 2025. This is a business show on NPR that has always been very objective and covers the business world in the US and abroad, and has always been very independent, never has been in any way opinionated. And this was like the first time I ever heard someone on NPR speaking in that manner in my memory, listening to NPR for 20 plus years, 25, I think even 30 years. And this is a sign that something is deeply wrong that's going on. People are talking about how the host Kai Ryssdal might have said that because they're possibly facing cuts from the government, just like everyone else is. And they have been criticized in the past for being propaganda or leftist or woke, and that's far from the truth. They are far more objective than a lot of the media, commercial media, capitalist media that's out there. If you could compare them match to match to shows like CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or ABC, CBS, any commercial media, they are the most objective of all. Those shows that usually have shows where they have a host that devotes a whole hour or 30 minutes criticizing the president and its administration, no matter what party. It can be MSNBC or it can be Fox News. It can be Rachel Maddow. It can be Sean Hannity. But NPR has never done that. And a lot of people are critical of the network or the organization as being liberal. And yes, they lean liberal because they do cover issues about LGBT communities, about racism, civil rights, and things of that nature. But besides that, for the most part, they stay very objective. You can sit down and watch their shows hand to hand. Even if you never listen to it, because I hear people that are critical of it and they never listen to it, or they listen to it maybe off and on once. I suggest that you listen to it for a couple of days and see how objective they are compared to Fox or CNN or MSNBC or any commercial news network. Independent public media is the most objective, not just here, but if you compare around the world, like if you go to, if you listen to in Germany's DW News, or if you listen to France 24, or if you listen to BBC in England, UK, you can see they're more objective in their reporting than commercial media. And the thing is, a lot of people are saying that they're funded by the government. They are not funded by the government. Initially, when it was founded back in the late 60s with the Corporation of Public Broadcasting under President Lyndon Johnson, 1967, I believe it was. And then they founded NPR, National Public Radio, in 1970. And they also have PBS as well. And ever since then, their funding was, while it was wholly funded by the government at the time to bring education and more independent media away from the commercial influence of ABC, CBS, and other commercial media, they were focusing on giving education. If many of you watch PBS growing up, you know what it's like. You know, Sesame Street, historical shows in the evenings that many times as kids, sometimes we found boring, or even as adults. But if you look at it compared to all the, garbage that you see many times in the all commercial media, that is far better. If you compare, say, Disney to PBS Kids, it's a clear difference. And what I need to clear up is that people are saying that it's funded by the government. It's not anymore. Through times, it has changed. And even NPR has had cuts and hiring freezes and cutting budget in 2022, 2023, as recent as possible. You can check online. Don't believe me. All this information I'm giving you, you can get online and find out. They've cut budgets, they cut personnel. So they're not growing. They're not becoming big or expanding. So it's something that people really need to take in account. And just to give you an idea, 40% of their funding comes from listeners of NPR that donate to NPR. 40%. The rest of it comes from other sources. I believe it's 10%. I believe it comes around 10% comes from corporations that donate, like Bank of America, or sometimes, Amazon, and big corporations donate without obligation. Because when you do advertisement with Fox or CNN, there's expectation that you're supposed to serve to them or bend the knee if something controversial comes in the picture. NPR sometimes makes stories that are critical of corporations that they get donations from. And even when they report the story, they said in the report, they said, for disclosure, this company donates to us, but we're still doing the story on them, even though it's negative, more or less along those lines. Again, listen to them. And the other thing is, they also get, I believe, 10% donation from foundations and nonprofit organizations like UNICEF or YMCA. That's another 10%. Only about 5% comes from the government today. Now, out of over 1,000 radio stations, affiliates around the country, they get funding from the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, CPB. They also get money in those stations for them, and they turn the money and give it to NPR or PBS, and that becomes about 15%. So if you add it all together after breaking those numbers down, it's about 15% from the government. But most of it, aside all the donations from other sources, most of it comes from the listeners. So I just want to share that so people don't get the impression that it's government funded, that it's sort of like people are comparing it even sometimes to North Korea or to China, like propaganda media. That is inaccurate. So please find out, listen to the show, give it a chance for a couple of days, and then you can decide for yourself if it's true or not. Don't buy the lies, don't buy the exaggerations. Listen for yourself, research for yourself. National Public Radio and PBS, Public Broadcasting Service, are good companies. If they need adjustments, they do, but they do good for most of the people. Just wanted to share that. Yeah, have a good one. Hasta la vista.